Take one.
You're watching the QUESTionaire podcast.
What can they say?
You are checking out the QUESTionaire.
What's your name again?
The QUESTionaire.
Would you like to have questions?
I don't got it. I'm not that guy.
Submit yourself.
Super fun and entertaining.
This is the QUESTionaire.
So we've just doubled our problem instead of solving it? Great. Yeah, this is the QUESTionaire, ladies and gentlemen. I am the Unknown Factor, AKA the Wade Wilson of Hip Hop, AKA your host for the show. But you know, we always got another host, and we certainly did double the trouble, or triple it, or quadruple it. Or I don't know how a Serbian ended up introducing me to a Hoosier, which still blows my mind. Larry, would you stop reading? Larry, I'm gonna throw. Yeah, you, dude. Put the book down.
We're recording? We're recording?
Okay, look, it's happened to where I didn't record quests. This one's recording. I can tell, okay? I see the thing with the thing with the thing, and you gotta edit the thing, and I know you got other things to edit, but that's not the point. You're gonna cause me a War of the Worlds. Bro, I'm gonna go Don Quixote. You hear me? You hear me? Because we got some classics, yeah, with a bit of a clash of it, yeah, with Tom Pinchuk.
All right, fair enough.
Yeah.
Hello, everybody. Hello. I'm in the show now. I'm in the QUESTionaire.
Dude, I just did a whole intro for him, and then you started talking. Did you not catch what I just stringed together? Did you not hear all that? That was like
No. I definitely heard all that. It was some real brilliant word string in there.
It was like poetic and just Tom, how you doing? Would you I'm never making him co-host again. He's just an editor now.
I'm enjoying myself. I'm always enjoying myself. I'm down for it.
Oh man, look, I love, can I say, Tom?
Yes.
I love what you said about the pre-show questionnaire, which I know there's probably like 30 that I need to get up on the Patreon over there, because if you sign up to the Patreon, you can check everyone's pre-show questionnaire. Because I've never, most people are like, hey, that's cool. They're weird questions, and they answer them. I've had a couple where I've had somebody be like, what are these stupid questions? And I'm like, because apparently and then I had another person be like, it's just like they wouldn't come on the show because they thought those were the questions I was going to ask them during the show.
Oh, okay.
Which apparently you kind of thought that for a moment.
No.
Okay.
No,
okay.
Trust me, I'm quicker on the uptake than those other guests.
But the fact that you're like, it's like an old school wizard interview. You really will make me blush, Tom. But why?
I miss those days. I want to be back in them, and this is the closest thing.
Oh damn! Wait. Where's the? Oh, can I reach that far? Hold on. Here, let's. We're gonna get into this one just later on for something. Oh, you like how I literally just pulled an old school wizard off my book?
Just at ready.
Yeah. There's a couple of them over there. Right, we're gonna get into something in that in a little bit. But why are you gonna eat the aliens if they just like, dude? That seems.
You gotta eat them. You gotta eat them before they eat you. A lot of people go in not expecting that, and then they wind up in some alien's belly. So you gotta eat them before they eat you.
That's because that's like I don't know what to say to that answer, because like just to look like how like, but what if it was a xenomorph?
They eat you.
You're like, it's already
Martin.
You know, all right, okay. So
I'm gonna be real. If there was an alien that didn't want to eat me, I would assume something was wrong.
Yeah. You know, you say it's Bill Murray's whole monologue. You know, sometimes you meet a nice alien, you know, Starman or ET, but most times they're just some big lizard. You can't give them the benefit of the doubt.
So you just grilling them up. All right, man.
I'm just saying, you know, if there's a through line to all these stories about extraterrestrial encounters and pop culture and fiction, to serve man on the Twilight Zone. Remember that? Did you learn? I like to put into effect the lessons I learned from cautionary science fiction, and that was what I got from the Twilight Zone. They're going to eat you, so you got to eat them first.
Tom, do you need therapy?
Isn't this what this is? I thought this was what this interview was.
Then will someone start paying me? Right?
Or at least give us the license to be a therapist.
Look, no. If this is therapy, I want therapist money. All right, because for real.
Okay, let me take that back then. We won't define what it is.
Oh.
We don't need labels. We don't need labels here.
Oh yeah, that's what I tell this one female right now. Yeah, that's a whole different.
Hey, so it's a strategy that works.
So Clash of the Classics, right? Right? Clash of the Classics.
Great segue. Great segue.
Right? And sometimes you just gotta swing and hit it, and it doesn't bloody well matter. Right? I want to know what made you initially decide to do that. Right? And was it specifically, is this the one, the Don Quixote War of the Worlds? Is that the first thought you had when you had this thought?
I was approached by this digital publisher. I got the rights back now, but the initial idea was we were kind of exploring maybe doing something with classic characters that people were familiar with and doing a spin on them. And sometimes you just make these connections in your head; they just pop into your head. And so I really loved fifth week events in the 90s that. Like Amalgam Comics or Tangent Comics, and there was just always this fun burst of creativity that you'd have where they were feeling, okay, well, we've got an extra week this month, let's really just burn the house down. And so you get 6 to 12 of these just really fun one shots. And I think that I read interviews even with a lot of the creators that they said that they found that really freeing creatively, is that if it's not supposed to count in continuity, or if it's not supposed to be something that's going to be the first chapter of something, you're just trying to tell a really fun story in of itself. And that was a vibe that I really wanted to capture with this. And so somehow it just crystallized in my mind of what if we took that approach to classic characters, so Don Quixote and War of the Worlds, and I've got scripts for later ones for Dracula and Peter Pan. Dracula's Guest Peter Pan is the title, and then The Invisible Man, Sherlock Holmes. There's a few other ones that we have down the line, but I just think there was a spirit of creativity then that I just wanted to bottle. I mean, also what I would maybe clarify about this is as well was I think League of Extraordinary Gentlemen is definitely an inspiration on this as well. And it's just something that what I really appreciated about that take was that was not based on the movie versions of the characters. It was not Disney's Captain Nemo, and it was, or the kind of cuddlier version that you have of the Invisible Man that people think of. This was authentic to the books of warts and all. And being products of their time. And so I thought it'd be just really fun this is not a reverent take. Let me put it that way. This is not, I think that's the thing that we were trying to find an exact approach to this, where I was thinking, having these sorts of mashups and crossovers. It's it's not coming from a place of thinking, okay, there's going to be a really long series about the further adventures of Don Quixote. It's I started from really more the perspective of, what if I ruined the point of Miguel de Cervantes' book? Just completely ruined it by putting it into this other scenario and then burning the house down. And then the aim is that's how I'm really approaching every one shot, is to say we're going to burn this house down, then we're going to burn the next house down. So it's I really did the research. I tried to make it authentic to the characters and the setting and the books. We didn't cheat, so to speak. But this is not written, to impress, literary purists. It's not. It's very much like I think that the whole thing about like I guess I'd put it this way, it's that if you read like Don Quixote, it's like the whole point of that book, which I think gets lost sometimes, is that's a bit of a tragedy. I mean, it's a tragic comedy in the sense that he wants to be a knight, but knights haven't been around for centuries. So it's tragic that he's so crazy that he thinks he's a knight and that he thinks he's dueling with giants and he thinks this peasant is his squire and so on. And I thought, well, the best way to ruin that would be to put him in a scenario where he actually does get to kick ass. And everybody still has to put up with it, even though he still is crazy. So that was that's more of my kind of creative impulse with this. In this case, it's that like I think again, I'm drawing from a lot of like different comparisons here, but it's like I think like with What If, that was another one that I liked with Marvel, where this is kind of like I've been saying that's the real short way to describe Clash of the Classics, is that it's like What If, but for famous adventure characters. But what I really wanted to kind of challenge myself to do was to find a way that it's not a whole cloth reinvention. It's more like, okay, there's a specific moment or detail of one book that we're flicking the switch the other way. They're zigging instead of zagging, and then exploring the chaos from there. So in this case, with War of the Worlds, I was thinking like, well, what if the Martians just arbitrarily invaded 200 years earlier? And so Don Quixote's there. And so now he's had in this really unexpected situation where everybody thought he was crazy when he's jousting with windmills. He thinks he's training to fight with giants, but actually he has been training to fight with giants, because now there's these fighting machines tottering around and he's uniquely qualified to fight them. And now the human resistance has to deal with someone who's cuckoo crazy, who they have to indulge because he's their only hope. And that's what I'm kind of saying, is like that was to me, like I just found that so fun and exciting to explore, because it's not coming from a real place of reverence. It's more of like, okay, let's start with these books and then just go completely crazy once we get to a certain specific turning point.
I dig that, and I also wanted to point out, so it's Tom Pinchuk over here. You're just out to destroy classic characters by putting them in situations they should have never been in.
Exactly.
I respect this a great deal, but and it makes me very curious, because the other one you said was one of the other ones you said was Dracula and
Yes.
Peter Pan. Right, and I get the sense of Don Quixote in the World of the Worlds and how you do that there, right? What are you playing? Because I feel like Dracula is just gonna be like, hey, I'm gonna. Well, what? Because is it because literally Peter Pan just wants to stay a boy, and if Dracula bites him and turns into a vampire, hey, look, you got your wish, but I mean now you got to drink blood too.
Nope.
Oh wow! You see, that's what I thought was gonna happen.
So I think where I wanted to start with is that when you read Peter Pan, I think what's very obvious is that this is a little shit. I'm sorry. This is a little punk in that book, and he's a gang leader. I mean, that's what the Lost Boys are. And so I was thinking that there's a lot of valid reads on Peter Pan about, oh, well, wouldn't it be so tragic never to grow up? And wouldn't it be if you didn't get to experience life as an adulthood, wouldn't that really be tragic? Or isn't there also something that's bittersweet, pining for lost youth? And I wanted to do a completely unsentimental take on that premise. Just completely just reveling in how much of a little punk this character is. So if you remember, like, and the other thing, like I said, like I kept going back to the books, is that with Dracula, that is actually kind of written like in its context it's sort of like the equivalent of like Paranormal Activity, because it's written in letters with dates, and they really try to like harbor on a lot of these kind of mundane details. So it's like the supernatural stuff kind of creeps in at the edges. But a lot of people forget that the premise of Dracula starts with a real estate deal. Like that's the thing, is that Jonathan is coming, he's traveling from England to Transylvania, and it's really remote, and he's meeting with this weird potential client who wants to buy plots of land in London. And he's also like, the detail that I even loved was that he's meeting with him and he's looking around his I guess it's his guest room, and he has brochures for London. Like it's like the most like nerdy thing is that you have Count Dracula actually has all these like, oh, I'm doing a bit of research here before I'm planning this vacation. So in this case, what I'm saying, like it's just that the stuff is, if you put the research in, I think it's a lot more, there's a lot richer stuff to kind of riff on. So in that one, what the point of divergence is going to be is that Count Dracula is expecting Jonathan Harker, the solicitor from England, to be at his door, and it's Peter Pan who's offering him plots of land in Neverland as a real estate deal. And it's because Peter mugged, he jumped and mugged Jonathan Harker on the way and stole his outfit, and now he's posing as him. And Dracula's trying to suss out, is this someone trying to sell me magic beans? Is this a prank? Is this the equivalent of someone, doing ding dong ditch at my door? And then the thing I would add about that is like when it comes into their respective abilities, Dracula finds out pretty quickly that his charms, his enchantments, all his mind control powers may have worked on a mere mortal like Jonathan Harker. It doesn't work at all on Peter. So now he has to deal with this menace, this nuisance, running around and demanding that he buy land at some, a place that he thinks is completely imaginary and fictitious, and he thinks it's a prank. So again, that's kind of more of that's the angle I'm taking with this stuff. It's not a parody. I mean, you can definitely enjoy it. I think as a serious story with dramatic moments, but it's not reverent at all. It's not. We're not.
No. All right, so that dude, you literally made Peter Pan, the Dennis the Menace of Dracula.
That is honestly rather genius. When you think of the age play and it's really good.
Yeah, it's Dracula's Mr. Wilson, and Peter Pan is Dennis. And also, it's something to. I'm saying, you're already cracking up about that, and I think that's something that I was never really approaching this from the perspective of it's like Dracula versus Pan. It was more, what's the kind of clever intersection here of some way that you can kind of ruin the point of these books, and intentionally do that. And it's also something where like what I've described to you is really only the beginning of that's just the beginning of it. And it goes in a lot of crazy directions, even just in the space of that one shot.
All right. So you said you liked like a lot of the what ifs and all of that. And I always did too. I always thought like one of my favorite story arcs was for a long time really just a what if, that being the Age of Apocalypse, and then you know what I mean? Yeah, I love it, man. That's some creme de la creme of the 90s, in my opinion. All right. And then you could get into the Alchemation from Dark Horse in DC, which I loved as well.
Oh, yeah.
But I'm curious with this, are you explaining how you're bringing these characters together? Are you just like doing it? And do you intend to have these characters play with the characters that have already been in the other books at a later point in time and be like, dude, why are we going to so many places?
Right. Well, at the moment, it's very succinct. I just have it be that lightning strikes the Grand Library and it sets the whole thing on fire. Like I said, burning the house down. And so these books are literally fusing together because they're just burning and crumbling off the shelves. I might as well say, I mean, the plan is we're going to do each one of these will be a self-contained one shot. I really just wanted to get to the point with each one. So we have a very quick prologue at the beginning of each that just says what the setup is. And then very importantly as well, each one has a recap. There's a recap of both books that are getting smashed together, because I wasn't really going to count on the fact that, everybody who's potentially reading this is going to be intimately familiar with these books. So there is a nice recap that's there that you don't have to have actually read Dracula or Peter Pan. You don't actually have read Don Quixote or War of the Worlds. Like, we'll tell you everything that's relevant to know right then and there. I'm playing around with the idea that if maybe down the line, if we did a collected edition introducing a narrator, sort of like the Crypt Keeper, but it's a bit early on. I think I tend to find with comics especially is that I think there's always a temptation to get ahead of yourself and to your eyes to get bigger than your stomach. And so I really wanted to stress that with this series is that each one is self-contained. It's beginning, middle, and end. They're tied together thematically, but this is not something where you know, I think if you're sort of get a little too carried away early on with like this is chapter 1 and we get to the cool stuff with, you know, issue 27, it kind of turns everything you're doing into an extended prologue. So like each one of these is like, again, I was just going with the philosophy of we're burning the house down, you know, like we're the walls are crumbling around us. We got to have as much fun as possible and, you know, tell the story that we want to tell before this roof collapses on us. So that's the aim. I mean, I think that maybe if we get, I might, you know, if we do more of these down the line, maybe I'll have some of the characters that get wrecked meet each other afterwards. But I also, you know, in some cases, I keep saying like, you know, they burn the house down. It's a little difficult to pick up the pieces after that, and, you know, and have the characters meet each other. So again, I don't want to get too ahead of myself. I mean, again, I think like in my vision, the ideal version of this would have been something like, I just love the experience of when I would go to the comic store and there would be 6 amalgam books. And it was just like, oh, wow, this is great. Like all these together at once. And each one was a nice, you know, one shot that, you know, told a complete story. And they worked out a lot better, you know, in a grouping together. So that was another thing that I really wanted to emphasize with this as well, is that I don't know. Execution's everything. And I'm certainly aware that when you have like public domain characters, everybody has a take or can have a take. So it really comes down to what your exact execution was. And in this case, it's that I don't know if the idea would really work if I had approached this as like, oh, it's a 12-issue maxi series of Don Quixote fights the War of the Worlds. Like I think that would sort of, I don't know, take out the spirit of it. Like there's not. I kept saying this is sort of like a punk rock take on these characters, and I feel like it's the same kind of spirit of like when you have a punk song. It's like 2 minutes, bang 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 bang. Let's get a lot of energy out and a lot of attitude out, and then hey, thank you, good night. You know.
So when are you doing Steamboat Willie?
You know, it's interesting you bring it up because I did have a friend who asked me if I wanted to feature Tarzan as a character, and I had been advised against that because I think I've heard like anecdotally that technically Tarzan is in the public domain in America, but I think the estate of Edgar Rice Burroughs is still very protective of it. So like if Disney does Tarzan, I don't think they're gonna dally with them. If I do it, they might send me a cease and desist. So I tried to be a little careful about like which characters I'm using. So I don't know. I suppose I could use Steamboat Willie. I'll leave that to somebody else to take that risk. It's about calculated risks. It's kind of like what you're seeing now with Conan, where it's like Conan's in the public domain in Europe, but not in America. So it's like Marvel has Conan, but then was it Tie-In Comics is doing the Sumerian. You know, weird sort of get around to that. So I don't know. That was, I mean, but what I also maybe just say about this is that whenever like Steamboat Willie comes up and, you know, I think about like the real early days of Disney, I always love when you go back and watch them and just like see how much more violent and suggestive and sexy they are than, you know, Disney wants you to think that. That Mickey Mouse always was. And I think that the other part that I kind of joke about is that like, you know, if like today you're saying like, oh, Mickey's going to become a wizard and he's going to cast some spells. It's like, okay, he puts on a pointy hat with some stars on it and he says some mumbo jumbo. If you watch a cartoon from that era, from the 30s, it's like, oh no, here's this specific like Masonic symbol and we're invoking this particular, you know, like, you know, this particular demon in some sort of demonology tradition.
Yeah, because a lot of those cartoons, when they put them on streaming anymore, they always have to preface,
Right.
like, you know, the whole like some of what you're about to see in this episode is not necessarily reflective of the beliefs of the Walt Disney Corporation and so on.
Watch this. It's magic. We will subdue you all. Now check all the symbols in the back of my screen at this moment for everyone watching. Make sure you edit that in there. Watch the symbols. Sorry, wait, what were we talking about?
Oh, I get it. Well, I mean, I even, you know, the ones that I also love that are in Disney Plus that like they probably should put the preface on it, but they just either didn't really understand the context of the film or, you know, maybe look too closely at. So like Darby O'Gill and the Little People. You guys ever heard of that movie? So that was like Sean Connery's first movie. It was a Disney movie, and it's about this old codger who meets the king of the leprechauns, and he goes down into a mountain into like the kingdom of the leprechauns. And it's actually like it holds up pretty well in terms of the effects. They're pretty advanced for the time. But what I love about it is like you're watching it, and it just kind of occurs to me. It's like, oh, the leprechauns are wish-granting tricksters like the djinn. So that means they're demons by another name. And if you had to make that any clearer, like they specifically have people in town telling Darby, oh, you're going to go cavort with the forces of darkness, you know, out there. I was like, oh, okay. And I think there was sort of expectation back then that people were maybe more familiar with folklore or like 1001 Arabian Nights. So it's like they kind of understood the place of it a bit more. But I always just love that kind of thing where it's like, I mean, I guess if I'd say like some of the impulse with this sometimes it's like, it's kind of like I want to appeal to everybody's like inner child who's, you know, you in like middle school in English, who's been like assigned some reading and the teacher or the PTA maybe didn't read it closely enough and it's some sort of classic book and there's some more unsavory stuff in there. And you bring it up in your class presentation and then they're initially wanting to scold you and get you in trouble and say, hey, I didn't say it. The book, it's in the book you assigned.
Yeah, no, that's honestly the concept that you have sounds like that. If we were able to read this mashup with War of the Worlds and everything like that when I was in middle school or something like that, like if this was the one that we had to read, like I feel like as a kid I would have been like, yeehaw, let's go, you know. It's such a cool concept, and I feel like a lot of people are really gonna end up digging this once it comes out.
Well, that's the hope. Yeah, I mean, what you're describing is exactly the type of audience I was trying to appeal to, is just sort of kind of getting back in touch with maybe like that kid who's zoning out and daydreaming in class and kind of imagining like a more fun version of whatever they've been assigned.
Well, here's how many train or tracks I have in my head with how many trains. Right. Firstly, I just got to say it's Titan, and here's a lovely cover by the wonderful Mike Ruth for the new Conan series. And I picked this up and just based off the cover, read it. It's so good. I had to pick up the first volume of the graphic novel. All right. 2, yes, multiple man's powers. That is the correct answer in the world that we live in, Tom. There is no other correct answer in the world that we live in for what superpower you want than multiple man's powers, because you can do whatever you want. You could just accomplish and make a great many things. You could take over the world. It is your choice with that power. It is, man. You could do whatever you wanted. It is the correct answer. It has no limitations in the world that we function in. Now, it would. But you can't. You tell me you couldn't take over the world with that power?
I don't know if I'd want to.
I'm not saying you. Look. Again, I wouldn't want to either. That's way too much of a headache. Because, like,
I know that's the thing. Like, yeah. I feel like that would be like a headache for 500 of you.
Well, no. To take over the world, it'd be a headache for like 1 million of you, and you would have to constantly reabsorb and kick people out to make sure you were staying in proper knowledge to control everything. It's fully feasible and possible, but you would become a really scary individual, right?
For sure.
You could just, like, be cool about it and like make entertainment and be productive and like. Which is what I like. Look, man, If I could do that, yeah, the show would get promoted properly. It's the only thing we're looking for. We got Larry Dunn editing right now, right? Oh wait, what was the? There was wait. Oh, and Sonic the Hedgehog.
Oh yeah.
That's intriguing. Like that's never been chosen as far as the world to live in, because like who wants Marvel or DC? That's just a death sentence, right? But I do
Yeah.
like I feel like I would be okay if you're where you're at in the world located in Marvel, because I'm in Indiana. Like me and Larry would
Sure.
probably be all right until like the whole world died,
Right.
But we wouldn't have no like New York, the city just fell, kind of crap. But
Well, I mean, I think that answer maybe might be a long way like the result of me reading too much Astro City or Kurt Busiek's work, because I think he was really a pretty significant amount of his bibliography is exactly about what would it be like to be a normal person who doesn't have powers in a superhero world, and it seems like most times it's not great one way or another. I have a friend. Now I get to be a little mysterious, but I have a friend who's a YouTuber who profiled the creators of the Sonic comics. That was an interesting depth to that world. And so I remember he's one of my best friends. I've known him since college, and that he was when he was profiling them, I hadn't really ever read the comics, but I got to delve a little bit into it when he was writing this article, or writing this I guess YouTube essay, whatever you want to call it. I don't know. The terms always seem to kind of slide, but it was kind of one of those things that was funny because it's like between like that and the Carl Barks like Duck comics, there's this interesting kind of tradition in comics sometimes of almost like a cartoonist who like lives in seclusion gets like the license to some company's character, and then the company forgets about it effectively for like decades, and so they just kind of toil on their own and build this like you wouldn't think of like Donald Duck as having like a really deep continuity or involved universe like Marvel or like Sonic, but apparently they do. They've been like hundreds of issues of Sonic. So it's got this very interesting fandom to it, but in both cases, it just seemed to me that they were like the products of like negligence from the license handlers, because I think like in that case specifically, one of the creators got the rights. Like I got the rights back to my comic, and I had to do some negotiation to do it, but he got the rights back because the publisher just simply didn't give him forms to sign it over on. And that was hilarious because it was like they were, they got the license from, this bigger game. It was from Sega, and Sega's like, what the hell? We were expecting you to, to dot the I's and cross the T's here, and you didn't do it. So I don't know. It's just my glib. I guess when I get a question like that about like, I was just kind of going down the list, and it was just like, I don't know if I'd really want to live in the Marvel universe. I don't want to live in the DC universe. I definitely don't want to live in Mega City 1. You want to have some kind of peace in your life.
Wait,
so I don't know.
Come on. You don't want to deal with the judges, Tom. That sounds like so much fun. Like, oh, you got sugar? 10 years in the ISO cubes.
Exactly.
What?
I also got to ask, how much of you wanting to live in the Sonic world is just, do you just love rings as well? Is that with that being the currency of the Sonic games? Okay.
It just keeps things more simple. I mean, I don't know. You get a little tired of handling greenbacks and
you got pennies, you got dimes, you got nickels, you got quarters, you got 50-cent pieces. Nope, all rings.
All right, this conversation is done. We're not talking about rings, right? Right, but remember Andy Xenon, right?
Xenon.
I suck at names, man. Be happy I got yours right, Tom. Don't pick on me. Inform us, because I might be ill-informed on that one, Tom. I won't lie.
Well, I wrote for 3 seasons on Ben 10, the animated series on Cartoon Network. And I worked on the iteration of Ben that was the reboot. That was a bit divisive among Ben 10 viewers because Ben had been around for about 10 years and had been allowed to age up. I think he was about 17 before I got on the show. And Cartoon Network and the powers that be sort of looked at it and figured, well, yeah, it's nice that we're appealing. We have dedicated fans who stuck with the series all this time and through these different iterations, but this is primarily a kid show. It's in the title. It's about a 10-year-old. The further we drift away from that, we're sort of lose the elegance and simplicity of Ben 10. So I worked on the reboot where Ben was 10 again, and we didn't really retell any stories, but it was more like we're telling more stories of when he was younger was sort of like the operative theme to it. But I met a lot of young adult fans who had grown up on Ben 10. It wasn't really iconic to me, but they had grown up on Ben 10 and were very eager to let me know that they were not too happy about being aged out of the fan base, not on their time. And I thought, actually, that's a great starting point for a story. I mean, I think I don't know. I guess for me, it's like sometimes when I have a bit of antagonism in my life, I start to think more creatively. I don't know, was it pressure makes a diamond? And I just started to think of like, well, what would happen if, how would that feel for the character to be aged out? And so in my story, it's a kid adventurer who loses his powers at 18 and has to get adjusted to being a normal guy. Just got to go back to being just a regular Joe. And it's really like the one story that we couldn't tell on that show. It was me kind of like intentionally trying to explore stuff because I also worked on Max Steel, the Mattel superhero show too. Or I worked on the comics version of that. I really enjoyed working on those, but I just was kind of intrigued of like, well, we can never really let these characters grow up past a certain point. There was also one of the conceits we had with Ben 10 was that his secret identity was going to be a non-issue. So it was supposed to be that if any passersby saw him change into an alien or to accelerate or forearms, they really wouldn't react. And so I thought, let me make this secret identity actually a huge issue in this, because after Andy Xenon loses his powers, he can't convince anybody that he used to be this kid adventurer. Like, nobody believes him anymore. So it winds up being this like closed chapter of his life, and he has to get adjusted to what's next, because I've kind of taken this all for granted. And again, that's really just the start of it. I wanted to actually start with that point and then see what happens afterwards, and he may even have by the end some comeback potential that he didn't expect.
No, I've never watched Ben 10. I think I was honestly like a little bit past that before it dropped out, kind of thing. You know what I mean? Like, sure. Before it came out. Are you telling me, does he lose his powers at 18? Did that character? Was that a thing? Okay. Like, then go on. Oh, well, I was just saying, in my opinion, that was a terrible choice by the network. Why not do what they did with so many other series and just be like, okay, we're going to just bring in a younger character. You know what I mean?
Well, I mean, you bring up a good point. I think that, Marvel kind of and DC kind of continually go through this, where about every 10 years they have an absolute line or an ultimates line, because, it gets a little tough to invite new audience members in if the characters are older than who the intended audience is, or if there's just too much homework the newbies have to do. And so I think that's part of like where you're seeing a lot of success with the absolute line right now. I mean, I suppose there's some irony in the fact that the new Ben 10 comic Man of Action is doing it, and they're describing it as the absolute or ultimate version of Ben 10. So I suppose they're getting around to doing that as well. Of course, there's added irony as well, is that they're working with an artist that I almost worked with about a few years ago on that.
So, nice.
I know. But I mean, again, he's not. I mean, I didn't really want to present him as being exactly like 1-to-1. I mean, I've also, like I said, I've worked on I've worked on Ben 10. I've worked on Max Steel. I think there's a bit of influence of say like Johnny Quest that's in there. I almost worked on a show. Monsuno was like another series that I almost worked on. And I just was kind of there was a period in my career where I was working on a lot of like kid adventure, kid superhero shows, and just I think that I think what I also found is like most times like the audience will ask questions of like, oh, why did not the writers ever think about this? And it's like, no, we've already had that discussion in the writers' room. We've just decided we're not going to explore that because it's not really for the show. So I think like with with Ben 10, I think there was a bit of wisdom in the notion that the title is Ben 10. It's like he's 10 years old. He turns into 10 different aliens. At least at the start, his name is Tennyson. There was a lot of elegance and simplicity there, and I think that they also really keyed in on that. There was, I kind of realized after a while I think there was maybe almost like a degree of Scooby-Doo in the show, to the sense that the whole conceit is that like he's on summer vacation with his grandfather and his cousin, and they're always going to public monuments or other tourist sites throughout the country. But it's like the conceit is that the show is set in a summer vacation that never ends, because that's kind of like, if you're a kid, well, what's the best time of the year for you? It's summer vacation. So they were really hitting on all the corners of wish fulfillment there. And I totally get it. Like I know why you wouldn't really want to offset that too much. I think I always love to bring up that if I ever do like a deconstruction, I'm not organized enough to really decorate my place. I admire both of you guys, because
No, you ain't gotta admire nothing. This is one corner of my house that is done for the show. I am a single parent. I'm not showing you all the rest of my house. All right, and we'll just leave it at that.
Well, I'll look.
This looks nice.
I'll tell you too. Like when people ask me, like, would you ever buy a figurine, or do you collect figurines? I'm like, I would never do that, because I know I would break it. I'm the guy who will walk by it and knock it over by accident, or like elbow it and break the arm off by mistake.
I was breaking my background before we started, Tom.
Yeah, well, we got that in common. We're simpatico.
But hey,
so,
I got something I want to get to before I do. I got to make the point. You know what they should have done with Ben 10 at that point. Then, right, with all the points he made, it should have ended with some girl walking up to him, going, "Ben, I'm pregnant," right? And then they cut to 11 years in the future, where his kid's 10-year-old. Boom, there you go, perfect, right?
I think that they did do some story where he was like, I think in the future, where it was like Ben 10,000. I think was like an error of his. I actually, I'm glad you're thinking along that way, because in Remember Andy Xenon, I do have a part specifically where he's lost his powers and he's going to a community college, and there's a girl in class that he likes, and he works up the guts to ask her out after class. But then the problem is that he then starts, he gets nervous and he just blurts out all right away. It's like, oh, and I used to be Andy Xenon, and I was an adventurer, and I had powers, and then I lost my powers, and I had to get just to do it. And you see her reaction, where she was like initially interested in going out with him, and then she's just like, oh,
you're crazy later. Yeah. So let me ask you, the question though that I wanted to get to was, because we've had a couple different creators on here that have wrote for television, as well as written comics, as well as just flat out, written creator owned, like, hey, this is mine.
Sure.
What do you find the biggest difference in that, as far as
I could go on at length about that.
Keep it to like 5 minutes.
Well, I would say, let me put it this way. You've got comics on the wall behind you. Who are some of your favorite writers you've worked on, say like Superman, or like an artist on Captain America? Like what are an artist on Deadpool? Like who are your favorites?
I love Joe Kelly's work. See, like if I started giving you the names of people that I'm really paying attention to actively right now in the industry, you're probably like, I mean, Tony Fleece. I love Tim Seeley. I was so annoyed when I seen that there was a crossover of Army of Darkness and Red Sonja, and they only had issue 1 and 5 at my shop, and that really annoyed me because I didn't see it until that point, and I was like, I gotta wait for the trade, whatever. I mean, I love Joe Kelly.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah, but I don't know. Like Garth Ennis is my favorite writer probably of all time, and
Well,
he hates superheroes.
Well, the reason I bring it up, I mean, I was a huge fan of Joe Kelly's Deadpool as well. And the thing is like when you talk about Deadpool with comics fans, you talk about it mostly in runs. So you say, I liked Joe Kelly's Deadpool versus, say, Jerry Dugan's Deadpool versus Daniel Way's Deadpool versus Gail Simone's Deadpool, right? Or Ed McGuinness versus Walter McDaniel versus Rob Liefeld versus Joe Madureira's take on the characters. So what I always bring up is that if I work on an animated show that maybe is seen by a broader audience, for sure, like if it's seen by people all over the world, not one of them cares that I worked on it. Not, and in fact, it's designed to make them not think about who wrote a specific episode. It's designed to be a continuous experience where it's like, I can't really tell who wrote this episode as a casual viewer. So that's the thing that I've realized about it is, I'm not, I've had a fantastic experience on the TV shows that I've worked on. But the thing that I think is always the trade-off is you are not associated with your work unless you're the creator or like the showrunner, whereas your comics, you're intimately associated with your work. When people read my stuff, or especially if it's something that I've done, and where it kind of splits even further. If I do something creator owned, like with Andy Xenon, I don't credit myself. I think people said it was a bit tacky, if you're a writer, to also credit yourself as the editor of your comic. But the truth is that most creator-owned comics is like the writer is the de facto editor too. I assembled the team. I'm giving notes on the art. I'm doing proofreads before it gets sent off to the printer. I'm writing the ad copy. Versus if I were working on a company-owned character, they actually don't even want me really to do much more beyond just send the script over. Like they actually don't really want my input on what's the font for the lettering, who's the artist you selected, what should we say in the copy, all that sort of stuff. So, when you read Remember Andy Xenon or when you read Clash of the Classics, that's the buck stops here. Every choice in that is a choice that I was involved with creatively.
And it's funny that you say that like that, because that's not a thought I ever had. But I know for a fact it's true, because we've had a number of individuals that have worked on a lot of crew. Like go back and check all the past QUESTionaire. There are some really, really great interviews. That's all I'll say in that regard. But it's even where like I've had somebody on and I'll be watching a show and suddenly I'll be like, hey, I talked to them a month ago, or like I'm sitting there, like the one that really got, because I'm a real big fan of Archer. And sometimes I'll fall asleep to that. Like it's my background noise, right? And it was falling asleep. And credits kicked on, and I looked up, and it was like Kevin Mellon, and I was like, huh, look at that. And it's odd. Do you think it's based that way because of the product has to be presented in a manner to where it is all synchronized, and you can't tell that there are a series of different writers? Or do you think it's done that way because, well, it's a giant corporation and the person behind it doesn't matter so much? It's more the fact that it was created for the masses and can get out that way. That was
it's a little question. It's a little bit of both. No, it's a bit of both. I've taught classes for UCLA's night school for TV writing, and I specifically teach students how to write a spec script, which is meaning that it's not an original. It's like if they want to, I don't know, the Ghosts, if they want to say like they wrote a sample of how they could write an episode of Ghosts like on TV right now, or like Animal Control. And what I emphasize to them is that when you write a pilot, that's to demonstrate what your voice is. And when you write a spec, it's to demonstrate that you can write in somebody else's voice. So when you're on a writing staff of the show, your skill is to figure out what is the tone of the show, what's the voice of the show, what's the humor of the show, what are some no-go zones you're not really supposed to approach in your writing, and it's supposed to be seamless. You know, you're really, again, like I would maybe emphasize about this is like it would be a, you know, it basically is a failure of, you know, maybe show running if you're able to watch a show and recognize that one writer worked on one episode and a different writer worked on another one. You know, their job is to make that seamless. So I think that's just the nature of television. I don't think, like, I think, you know, when it comes to TV, I mean, I've been finding this even with producing the comics is that, you know, you watch an episode of a TV show, you're not really supposed to ruminate on how long it took to make or how much effort it took or how, you know, everybody who was involved in making it, you're supposed to enjoy it, right? But it's a huge operation to produce 20 episodes a year, 22, even 10, you know? And so the staff is really supposed to be like an extension of the creator to reflect the tone of the show. I think also, I think about this a lot, that there was one time I was visiting my family actually in Illinois, you know, next state over from you guys.
Loving the Midwest represent.
That's right. That's right. And I think it was a really eye-opening experience because we went to go see No Way Home, and the movie had been out for 3 weeks. I went to go see it with my sisters and her kids, and it's on a weeknight in suburban Illinois, and there are audible gasps at every surprise cameo in that movie. And I went into it thinking like everybody already knows this because of the leaks and because of the trailers and because of interviews and reports. And then I think it hit me in a really like palpable way. As much as you have an interest in that stuff of like who's working behind the scenes, 99% of the audience doesn't care. Like they're not reading, you know, they're not watching an interview like this. You know, they're not they're not reading about the making of the book. I mean, frankly, also like if they got the DVD, they really would skip over the behind the scenes stuff because they don't care. So I think there are definitely like levels of engagement for an audience of like someone who it's just what's a movie out or what's a new, you know, show on or what's a new, I mean, even what's a new comic, you know. I think some people just enjoy comics. They're not super invested in what's going on. I'd say it's a bigger portion of the audience for sure, but there still are some people who I don't think are, you know, as curious about that. And I just think that that was the thing that I realized fairly quickly when I started working on these shows is just like, you know, you just have to expect that you're not going to be associated with your work. You know, like it's great. I've had great experiences on the shows that I've been on. There's nothing about them that I would say is negative. I just think it's better to have your expectations set. And I don't think that anybody who I met who was like a fan of a show that I was working on, if I mentioned my name, would immediately have an aha moment and realize, oh, you worked on this specific episode. You wrote this specific episode. You know,
there are people that I do that with now, but that's because they've been on the show either at least once or a couple times or this or that. And I'm like, oh yeah, blah, blah, blah. But I do know it's like, it's totally not something that's common, man. But I'll tell you something that I find. This show, for some weird reason, has made so many little connections in so many different ways. It kind of blows my mind, Tom. Right? Like the fact that Vlad, who's from freaking Serbia, introduced me to Larry, who's played a venue up in New Haven where he lives that I played a lot as a musician, and I get introduced to him by a Serbian. Now he's the show editor. That's hilarious, right? Yeah, that's really
that works.
That doesn't sound like it should make sense, right? What year of Wizard World was that, Tom? I need to know.
That was restart this whole commercial because people could probably hear Pokemon in the background.
Please check out this amazing promotion that we have prepared with the questionnaire.
I'm the Unknown Factor. This right here is the obscure fragment.
Are watching this show.
Hardaway.
Yeah, I'll do editing.
with the questionnaire.
So we've edited this awesome commercial to get y'all.
90% off.
We are not giving 90% off.
No, I mean 9.
How about 20?
The only thing that you have to do is enter that code that you have right there.
9.
No, 20.
10.
How about 20?
I'm printing your comics today with Studio Comics Press.
Just use this code right here, right here, right here. Look, I put it somewhere. All right, it's probably actually right here, right here, right. It's right under your chin. It says Quest 24.
That code you gotta enter in our website, and then you will get a Women discount of 20% in any of the items or products that we have on the website.
9.
20.
9.
20%.
9.
All right.
9.
He wants to give you 9% off. I, as well as Alfonso over there on Studio Comics, want to give you 20% off.
You can get it right there with this amazing code. Just enter it right here. Yeah, just right there. There.
Use that code over at Studio Comics to get 20% off.
Thank you very much. This is a special one for all our friends of the questionnaire.
Type in Quest 24 when you check out, man. You can figure out the percentage you'll get right then because it'll show in your order.
Yeah,
right?
9% off.
It's 20%.
The Questionnaire, the best current comic book podcast existing around.
So happy to have Studio Comics as our very, very first sponsor. Say Studio Comics!
Studio Comics!
Don't forget to share, like, subscribe, and do all the stuff that you have to do.
I'm the Unknown Factor with the Questionnaire. Make sure you check it out.
That was 2008.
Who was there?
Oh, geez, I don't.
Was that like Lee McFarlane and all that? Or was that before that? Am I thinking prior?
Sorry, no, actually, no, that was 2005. Sorry, I misremembered. That was 2005. 2005.
Oh no, that was okay. So no. See, I can because if you look, I don't know. I mean, you can't see right here because it's cut off. But that was 1998.
I want to say that I saw Jeff Johns do a panel announcing the plans for Green Lantern Rebirth.
Oh, that's awesome. That is awesome.
Was the panel there? But I mean, honestly, like I've been to so many conventions at this point, they sort of just blur together. What I did remember that was a little funny about that was it kind of made me think of like the movie Misery. Well, you know, I don't know, like for those of you that haven't seen Misery, but it's like, you know, the author kills off the lead of his like, gothic fiction novels, and then like he meets a super fan who's just upset about that and demands that he write a new novel bringing her back. And the first one he does, he just says she's back, you know, without really any explanation. And then Annie, who's like the captor, she burns it and demands that he write a real one that doesn't cheat. And he comes up with this like very involved, kind of convoluted explanation. And I just remember when they were kind of laying that out in the panel, where it was like, because at that point, Hal Jordan had been dead, I think, for maybe like, or had been evil and dead for, you know, almost a decade.
He went from Parallax to Spectre, I believe.
Yeah.
There we go.
Well, they made some halfway steps, but what I just remember about that panel, which I just loved, was it was like, for the longest time, it was like the Guardians are dead, the Green Lantern Corps is gone, Hal is dead, and he was evil. There's no going back. And then that whole thing was like, oh no, he was actually possessed by Parallax the whole time, and so it wasn't his fault. And we've reignited the Green Lantern battery, and all this is been undone. And and to be fair, I really think like I did love that run with the War of Light, and I still think it was crazy that it took him that many decades to make the connection of making like a Red Lantern or these other Lantern Corps. I would have thought people would have thought of that right away, but
I believe maybe Alan Moore brought that up in a Tales of the Green Lantern Corps annual he did a long time ago. But even then, it's just a brief mention. It was something that was never.
Yeah,
nobody thought to elaborate on it, so
yeah, I just thought it seemed like that was kind of like, like a real gimme. But I mean, maybe that kind of gets back to what I was saying before, is that maybe, antagonism is kind of a great place to start for inspiration, because because they had that, then you round up having lots of pretty good story arcs after that.
I can note that with even some of your answers to the questionnaire, Tom. Funnily enough, like sincerely, for anybody like, if I get on my stuff over here and I get all these questionnaires up on the Patreon, y'all go over it. Like I said, I think for that I think literally you just gotta subscribe to the Patreon. I don't even think it costs anything to see the question. Look, it's been an interesting year. We're not getting any more into it, right? But for real, I mean, I can totally see that because like I don't know. Pinches? Pinches? What is that? How do you even pronounce that? Should we not say that on the show? We try to keep it at least PG-13 over here, which does mean we do get one F-bomb in the long run of things, to be all sincere. But I don't. What is that? What does that mean? How bad is that? The fact that you stop, the fact that you talk and like licked your lips a little and was like, "Oh, should I say this? I don't know if I should get into this story." Like
He's been waiting. He's been waiting for this.
Well, I just laugh about this because it's interesting when I've worked on some shows and you really have to deal with like cultural sensitivities of like what's appropriate in one country but not appropriate in another one. And like specifically, there was even like one Ben 10 episode where, you know, we just showed a skeleton going around, and then the UK version cut that out because they thought that was too intense for kids. So I don't know. I if I just keep it to the Spanish, but yeah, it was explained to me that like pinches is basically like an adjective that's equivalent to effing.
Okay.
You know, so it's like you can kind of say, well, this is effing awful, or this is effing good, or you know, this is effing gross, or what have you.
Thank you for making my job easier, by the way.
no, but beep when he says that word in Spanish, man, because you never know. I don't know. That's what I'm saying. Like you two would be like blah 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 blah. I'm not getting anything crap on you, Tom. I don't even care. Like the way, like, because look, this. I'm like, we have tried to make the show very much for kids, but you know, at the same time, if you are letting your children free roam on the internet, I'll say nothing more. But it because like, why? No, there's terrible things out there, and then you got companies like Warner Brothers that just like to cancel random things. Like I can't tell you how annoyed. I can't tell you how annoyed and how much it hurts me right here. Like Coyote versus Acme.
Yeah.
That was a film. It was done. It was Wile E. Coyote with John Cena as his freaking lawyer suing the Acme. And my boy was getting into Looney Tunes, and he still watches it every now and again. Like we watched Space Jam and like the Back in Action and a couple others. And you told me they were going to do that.
Yeah.
And then they were like, so what'd they write off on you? And I didn't know they owned Cartoon Network. Sorry.
Yeah, I created a show. I sold it to Cartoon Network. I co-created it with an artist, and it was called Zero Dimension. And we were in development for about 2 years with the executives on it. And it was a victim of their corporate merger. So when the companies had merged, it's just like the old story that the new management comes in and just wants to cancel all these projects that were ongoing because they want to fill it with their projects. And so, you know, I went into it eyes wide open the whole time about development hell. I think that's always been kind of part of my philosophy is like, as long as your expectations are aligned, you know, you can't be too disappointed. So like, I think that the sword was always kind of hanging over our head, and we were following the news about the merger at that point. I suppose that's a story that gets more and more ironic the further I get away from it, because just today they're saying that Warner Brothers is offering itself up for sale. And they're wondering if like Paramount might buy it, or Apple might buy it, or Netflix might buy it.
Wait. What? Warner Brothers is for sale?
Yeah, as of today, that was the headline.
This is your chance, Jay. This is your chance. Yeah. Get in there and get it.
Yeah. Well,
I'll let you process that.
You greenlight his show, man.
I did not know that. And think about this: Warner Brothers owns DC. What if Disney was just like, why not? We already bought Fox for the rest of the X-Men. Let's just
Yeah.
really let's just make all these guys do all the crossovers we ever tell them to. Because
Yeah,
then you have the Avengers versus the Justice League versus Predators versus Aliens versus Terminator versus and that list can go forever.
well, I mean, I'll put it to you this way. So, the irony of all this to me is that when I tell people my show got canceled due to the merger, they think it's because of the merger with Discovery. It was due to the merger with AT&T. And this, and so like we're getting into like the stuff that which I'm saying is like what I'm describing right now is not something audiences are really supposed to care about, right? But I love to watch classic movies on Max. I don't like calling it HBO Max, but I mean, my show was even in consideration to be an original for that platform. And the thing that I can't unsee anymore is that every decade when I watch a Warner Brothers movie, there's the fine print underneath the WB shield of who was the parent company that decade. And it changes a lot. Like the thing I always love to bring up is that the fact that when AOL bought Time Warner, that was like the biggest corporate merger in history up until that point. And then I think like within the space of like only a couple years, Warner Brothers divested itself of AOL because their whole business model kind of crashed. So there is like a degree of volatility to this. I mean, I'd say that's also more reason that I've been leaning more to comics lately, just because there's a lot more of a certainty that I'll get it out in front of an audience rather than, you spend 2 to 3 years working on a show and I can't really show that to anybody now. I mean, it's like if a tree falls in the woods. So that was why I was like kind of keen to get the rights back to Clash of the Classics and do it my way, because it's like now I know that's going to, as soon as I got the rights back, I can have it in print in a matter of a month, and then I can get it to people. With the Kickstarter campaign. But I mean, the other thing I would maybe add about it too is that, I can see the Marvel versus DC banner behind Larry there. And, I mean, I think what's been interesting to observe is Amalgam was kind of like a real rarefied thing for me. I think I wound up having like a lot more nostalgia for that when they did the omnibus recently, because there's a lot of stuff in comics that's like you can kind of be nostalgic for, but like there hasn't been a year without Batman, right? But it's been 20 years since there's been anything new official with, say, like Dark Claw, or Spider-Boy, right? So that was a lot more rarefied of like this genuinely hasn't been in print for all this time. But I mean, I think there was, because of who was in charge of the companies or what the corporations were involved with, you weren't really having Marvel and DC crossovers for a long time, and now they're kind of settled back into more of like a gentleman rivalry. And I mean, I think that they've been. I was kind of mystified. I mean, I was really surprised. I mean, I kind of expected that they were testing the waters with doing the Amalgam omnibus to see like if there's still an audience for this. But sure enough, like they got Deadpool, Batman, and then what's in the back? They're introducing a new Amalgam.
I think not only that, they're doing the Spider-Man Superman one next year, because I think next year, isn't it the 50-year anniversary of the first Spider-Man Superman, the first Marvel DC superhero crossover?
Probably. I feel like if they celebrate those so frequently, I kind of lose track of it. It's like, it's the 27th.
I don't even blame you.
It's the 27th anniversary of this. Yeah, but I mean, I don't know. Like, you talk about like kind of connections coming around again. Like, I honestly, when I was working on Clash of Classics, I'm like, there's a bit more rarefied to kind of get that spirit of, Amalgam, because this is never going to happen again. And now it's like, oh wait, but at least like the nice part is that, and again, thanks to Kickstarter, like, the book's already done. I got the rights back to the first one. And then once we run, now we're running the campaign. It's maybe a matter of like 2 to 3 weeks before it's in print.
And there's a link in the description to that campaign for everyone that would like to check it out, regardless of whether where you're checking us out, Spotify, Amazon, YouTube, wherever you're watching the show, listen to the show, whatever. If the idea of the Clash of Classics has really intrigued your brain, which, I mean, I would hope that it would at least a little tickle it. You know, you can go check out the link and get a little bit more information, check out some of the art, and find out about that. But, you know, I gotta say, man, I've done this a couple times on the show, and I just feel like, based on the fact that you were like, this makes me feel like an old school Wizard interview. That's what it felt. That's what the questionnaire felt. You made me, man. You made me blush, Tom. You don't even know. Like that. It's been a day, Tom. It's been a day for me on some personal things. We ain't got nothing, but like I needed that, Tom. I appreciate it, right? But
you lay the charm on, man.
But all I got to say is like I said, I got some wizards over here, right? And you know they used to do them old school casting calls. You remember that?
I know, yeah.
Where they would cast films that we never thought we would see ever in our lives.
I know.
Right? In this particular issue, which with a nice little cover spawn there, man. Yeah. You know. They did the X-Men.
Oh, I think I had that issue.
Ooh.
Okay. So I want to
see this one.
Let's see. I want to see if anybody can call any of the actors they named. Now, for reference, this is January 1998, which that's funny because 1998 was the same year I went to Wizard World and met Stan Lee. That was not. That's funny. All right. All right. So
I think I can guess. I think I can remember a few.
Okay, well, let's see. Let's see. We're gonna give Tom the first guess, Lair, and then we're gonna see if you either agree or want to pitch something else, right? So for the first one, of course, Professor X.
I mean, that was Patrick Stewart.
Agree or disagree, Larry?
I agree with that. I feel like that. There's no way.
Yeah.
That's
There we go.
hilarious. In 1998, Patrick Stewart was cast as, and I don't know, I couldn't tell you when exactly the film came out, the first X-Men film, but...
It was 2 years later. Yeah, it was 2 years later.
Okay, all right. So, Cyclops.
Michael Biehn.
See, I'm pretty sure. Wait. Yeah, Michael Biehn. All right. Oh wait, Larry.
Yeah, I remember these things.
I didn't ask you, Larry. Sorry, whatever. Right?
Yeah, you know, I wasn't even born yet, man. Anything that I agree or disagree to is just me guessing.
Phoenix.
Nicole Kidman.
You agree or disagree?
That sounds about right. 1998, Nicole Kidman would have been thrown into something.
All right. Wolverine.
Dan Hedaya.
Agree or disagree?
I disagree, I think.
Yeah.
If I remember correctly, I remember reading some Wizards from around that time, and I could have sworn that Bob Hoskins.
Man, it's Robert De Niro. You're both wrong.
It was De Niro. That's what. Yeah, that's right. I was about to correct myself.
All right. How about?
I'm just imagining a Wolverine like, what are you doing? What's going on there?
How about Angel?
Oh man, I don't. Was that
Freddie Prinze Jr.?
No, it was the guy who played. Wasn't the guy who played he was the Princess Bride? It was
Carl Ewings. Yeah.
Carrie Ellis.
Or Carl, right? No, Carrie
Elwes.
Yeah, Carrie Ellis. Yeah, guy who plays the Princess Bride. All right. You're doing pretty good here, Tom. Like when
I told you I had that issue.
Did you just read it though?
That's what I was getting ready to ask. Will you read the Wizard before the show, Tom? From 1998.
I mean, what I'll say about Wizard was, like, the part that's I think that whenever I revisit it is just realizing, like, you know, you get all your information, your articles on websites now, you know, or blogs or whatever. You got that once a month, so you really just sort of poured over it and sort of like reread the articles and kind of really just hung on them.
And there were editors, so you didn't have to go through a bunch of information and figure out who had the intelligence that was at least above yours and you should pay attention to, because you know editors are important. I feel like the world, and I don't remember who we had that whole conversation with, as far as like that was the thing as far as in Marvel, like you can go and post your opinion wherever you want now about any comic or anything really, movie, film, television, and there's not a person like this at the letter column or whatever that gets your letter, reads it, and goes, yeah, no.
Well, I mean, I also even think about like back then. I remember I got introduced to Joe Kelly's work because they had a whole feature interview with him in Wizard, and it's like, you know, back in that day, it's like that was a multi-day interview where the editor, you know, probably made them do multiple drafts, and they had an attached photo shoot with it too, which I thought was like, it was a photo shoot specifically of him for the interview.
Oh, look, no, I ain't got time for all that, man. We're just BSing for a minute, and then I'm gonna like make Larry edit it, and then we're throwing it up. And I do need a photo of you, right? But let's see. I'm curious as to how deep, because you've gotten some of the main ones. I don't feel like you're gonna get this next one, Tom. Right? If you do, I'll be impressed. Iceman.
Ooh. Oh,
Yeah,
no.
if you get this, you read this yesterday or something. I swear on my life.
It wasn't Jay Moore, was it?
You agree or disagree, Larry?
At this point, I'm just gonna have to agree because he hasn't been wrong. I've been betting on the wrong horse sometimes here. So
No, look, now, I don't like Craig Kilborn. Y'all even remember?
Craig Kilborn, yeah.
Yeah. All right. How about Storm?
Oh, I think that was that Iman?
You agree or disagree, Larry?
I feel like around that time I have seen like, if I were to throw my own vote in, I want to say Angela Bassett.
Well, you would be wrong, right? Right. How about Rogue?
Rogue. Oh man. Ooh. Oh man.
Yeah, it's getting
Sandra
rough.
Bullock?
Huh?
Was it Sandra Bullock?
No, it was Charisma Carpenter from Buffy.
Well, wait, but who was Storm?
Yeah, we never actually said who it was.
Iman.
I was right.
Yeah, you were right.
Yeah. You see, that's what I'm saying.
That's right. No,
probably
I said, Larry, you would have been wrong, and that meant you were right. Tom, keep up with the game here. Come on, right now. How about Beast?
I think that was Kelsey Grammer.
You agree or disagree?
I feel like that might actually be right.
No, man. No. They didn't do that twice in this magazine. It was Sam Neill of Jurassic Park.
Oh, that's right. That's right.
Yeah. Now, how about one man I really wish they'd do in a movie and really give him some depth to his character as opposed to the one bit he got, which is Bishop.
I think that was Michael Dorn.
You know, that's a good call, but no. See, I forgot to ask, Larry. There's a lot of X-Men too. It's just taking too long. Morris Chestnut.
Oh yeah. I mean, I can bury the lead about a few other ones that I remember. I think it was if you want, unless you want to go through them each.
Oh yeah, Psylocke.
Oh, no. She was in. She was like the love interest in. She's the love interest in Wayne's World. Why am I forgetting her name? I'm gonna hate myself for this.
I want the audience to know every time we ask Larry what he thinks and what he doesn't think, everybody needs to remember I wasn't even born yet. Okay, I'm not an idiot that might have read this magazine at some point.
Excuses. Just like questions, if you catch the proper outro, I don't know which one we got on this, are not allowed on the questionnaire. I know that makes no sense. Just go with it, Tom.
I do remember who they had for Magneto and Colossus.
It's Taya Karyar. I don't know, like I'm butchering. You had that one. You had that one right? So how about Cannonball?
I think that was Matthew McConaughey.
See, you agree or disagree? You don't even matter. You don't even matter. You want a line.
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
Jonathan.
you know what?
It's Jonathan Bandis. I don't even see. I recognize him.
Oh, jeez.
All right. How
Oh,
about
man.
how about Gambit?
Was it Chris Isaac?
Patrick Muldoon.
Uh,
I can't believe some of the ones they cast. I'm like, seriously, like Marrow.
Oh wow! Oh,
That
was
is such a 1998.
I remember who that was now. Yeah, that was Feruza the Bulk.
All right. Gee, are you sure you didn't read this yesterday, Tom? I'm really starting to.
My batting average is pretty good. Yeah.
Dr. Celia Reyes.
How old would you say you were when you read that magazine? Like what age range were you?
I was 12.
That is some crazy.
Yeah. Okay. Then we're gonna keep. This is pretty impressive. Dr. Cecil Reyes.
Cecilia.
Whatever, man. I told you it's been a long day on a personal note. You're lucky I even showed up for this, Tom. I thought it was supposed to be next month on the 23rd. Stop messing with me. Well, I'm messing with you, okay?
I wish I were. Oh, man, this is gonna kill me.
You're thumping your forehead so hard.
I know. Well, it's funny because it's like that's like the thing that it's kind of like what Professor X does anyway.
This is how you conjure it.
Yeah.
I can't. I'm concentrating. All right. Come on, tell me. Wait. I'll tell you who that is if you can tell me where that line came from. Where did that line came from that I just said? I can't. I'm concentrating. I'll even give you the line before it. Fight back. Fight back. Why won't you fight back? I can't. I'm concentrating.
Was that X-Men Apocalypse?
Age of Apocalypse?
Well, was it was the movie X-Men Apocalypse?
No. That was the Omega of the Age of Apocalypse comics, where Apocalypse was beating the ever-loving out of Magneto and screaming at him, why won't you fight back?
That's right. Yeah.
And he's like, I can't. I'm concentrating.
And then he tore on the metal. Yep, ripped them in half.
Phenomenal, right? So yeah, that was Gloria Rubin, right?
Okay.
Dude, I can't believe they cast like maggots in this book. If you get this one, I'll be like suspicious of your like. I'm starting to get suspicious a little bit, but if you get maggot,
I do have a soft spot for Maggot.
I love Maggot.
Well, that was Joe Kelly's run. He had a brief run on X-Men. Maggot.
There's no way you're getting this.
I don't remember that one.
Because it's the Australian lunatic Jacko from the Energizer commercials. If you'd have got that, we'd have had to all right. How about
what's that?
No, go ahead, man.
I mean, what I'll say about Wizards casting calls that I always crack me up is it's like anytime you have a bald actor who gets famous, there's always if there's a new Superman movie, they're like, well, it's got to be him. It's got to be Bryan Cranston because he's been bald in this role. And it's always funny because whoever they get is just an actor with hair that they put a skull cap on anyway. So it's some of I think some of Wizards picks were fairly reasoned, but sometimes their reasoning was fairly superficial.
And to be fair, looking back on it, it's he had a name.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
No, it was Jacko, all right, from the Energizer commercials. I don't know what you're talking about, right? So let's see. We got 6 left. I want to see. I don't even know what you're at.
I know 2 of them. I know 2 of them for sure.
Larry, I need you to add a counter on this in the video editing. Can you?
Okay.
For everyone who gets correct.
Now. We're too far gone, but going back.
So there's a score. There's a score. Nobody on the show knows what it is, but for everyone out there watching, you can know how many that Tom has gotten wrong and Tom has gotten right. Yeah, how about
I
Mr.
think I'm
Sinister?
like -4 right now. I think I'm.
Dude, we're not keeping your score. You're at like, yeah, you didn't exist then, so it's irrelevant, right?
Yeah.
All right.
Mr. Sinister.
Oh, jeez. No, it wasn't Kevin Spacey. Was it James Woods? No.
Russell Crowe.
I don't think that would.
No,
Yeah.
he ended up playing Zeus, and I won't say nothing about Love and Thunder.
Well, he was
right?
Jarrell too, you know.
Whatever. I think he'd have made a better Sinister than either of those characters, to be real honest.
Well, I mean, what's funny about this is like these are always like these time capsules where they'll have an actor who was known for like I think they did that based off of him in Virtuosity.
Yeah, that literally says that.
Because this is before Gladiator, you know, and so that's like you have some of these like typecasting where like they didn't really have the iconic role yet, so they were kind of more of like just like a journeyman actor, or they were kind of more defined by other stuff.
All right.
Okay.
So how about Bastion?
Frank Langella.
But who? No. Scott Glenn.
Sure?
Scott Glenn.
Scott Glenn?
Man, look at my shirt like I'm not reading the freaking magazine.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, I'm sure this isn't an article. It's actually like paper in my hand. I'm not even having to look at the screen for this. It's kind of amazing. For anybody y'all out there that don't do this occasionally, you really should. I mean, it ain't got a magazine. It can be a book. It can be a comic.
Yeah.
Or just every once in a while, you should have like a physical
It
media
could be
in
Clash
your
of the
hand.
Classics.
You're looking at it. Check the Kickstarter. There's a link below, right? Right. So Apocalypse, while I make his score lower.
Was it Michael Clark Duncan?
Brian Thompson from the X-Files.
Oh, okay.
Okay, so you said you got these. Or no, wait. You said what? Right?
Do they have Magneto in there?
Well, that's what I was gonna say. But you said Juggernaut. Juggernaut's not, right?
No,
so
not
we're gonna leave. Oh, Sabretooth?
Oh, that one was Woody Harrelson, I think, wasn't it? No, yeah, it was, wasn't it?
That I would hope Wizard wouldn't put Woody Harrelson, just as far as that's a terrible casting of Sabretooth, right? But now Clancy Brown's from the original Highlander film, the villain in the original Highlander film, that in that era, I could see that dude playing a 1998 Sabretooth. You know,
well, he was Lex Luthor too in the Superman cartoon.
And also, 1998, isn't that the year SpongeBob started? He's the voice of Mr. Krabs on SpongeBob.
Yeah.
Clancy Brown?
Yeah, you didn't know that?
Yeah.
Shut up. No. What? My point. Look, I'm sorry. Like this is we're gonna see if Tom can get one more point. But my boy absolutely loves SpongeBob, and I'm always like, don't be like Mr. Krabs, and it's hilarious because now I'm like, that was because I watched the crap out of Highlander, and I'm like, yeah, that's the a-hole. Even if you have all that power, you shouldn't be like. And I'm telling him about the exact same actor that I had that thought. That's really, really full circle and weird. Magneto, Tom.
It was Rutger Hauer.
All right, so I don't know what his score was at, but he added at least one more right there. Right, but the Juggernaut was not in here.
No, it was Colossus. It was Colossus was the other one.
Yeah, there we go. That's what you said earlier.
Yeah. Well, I would.
They might have done it multiple times. Like I think they might have like done it one year and then revisited.
I mean, I could believe that. And then we got a Q&A with the great Todd.
Oh yeah.
Right. Who we'd love to have you on the show, Todd, if you see this, right? But that's neither here nor there, right? Because the point is, this is the questionnaire with Tom, right? And we've been, man, that Clash seems very intriguing. And what? Are you laughing at my segue? Don't.
I love the segues. I'm the I'm the king of the segue. You know.
I got problems, man. I got problems. Well, I would think you would have to have written. That's I got one more thing I really want to ask because I was gonna do something and do that and do this, but
I'm all ready for it.
Were you told when writing television, like you need a segue here or there?
No, that's up to you.
So they weren't that. So they weren't that hand up your like you were a puppet. That's at least a positive thing.
I mean, I'll say this: like, the thing that I learned from writing for TV on multiple shows is that it's always an office job. So it's like, every story editor I deal with on an animated show just has a different, managerial style. Like they just have a different way of running things. And so, there was one where he would be very friendly in the room and very collaborative. As soon as you were out of the room, he was the most standoffish jerk. Like he'd leave you hanging for like a handshake. But his notes were always on point. So I get the notes and I'd say, wow, I wish I'd thought of that, or wow, that really streamlines things. There was another one who kind of, ran things with a bit more of a slow hand. I think he let some people be a little disruptive in the room and we weren't really as productive as we could be. I think he was nice, but a lot of times I get his notes and like, I'd say like maybe every third or fourth one, I'd say, I don't know why this is in here. I don't know why you care about this. I don't know what this is, why this is relevant to you. And there was another one who was very hands off. He just was like, let's do what we got to do and nothing further. So it really just depends. I mean, I think that, I don't know. Like I don't work in like hour-long dramas, but I always think about stories of like Matthew Weiner on Mad Men, and he was kind of notorious for micromanaging. But I don't know if that's also because people like that show because he was very detail-oriented in that. I know that like sometimes I've worked on shows where the Bible for the show wasn't even ready yet when we worked on it. Like we were developing the show as we were writing scripts. And it's like I think it's ideal if like you start a show and you get given a Bible and says these are the characters, these are the themes, these are the rules, the universe, this is what we do or don't do. And that was a show where the characters would be inconsistent from episode to episode. It's like kind of what you're saying. Like, I mean, I think maybe they could have had a they might have benefited from that. Because at least there's some direction.
So I gotta ask, if you're writing these like spec scripts, like you're in a writer's room and you're figuring it out before you even get to the point of like having a show Bible. So how often were you working on something and then like has somebody come in with the show Bible after all of this work's done and they're like, no, you got to go back and follow these rules and redo it now?
That never happens.
Okay. All right.
I mean, I think mainly more, and this is also the thing I've kind of come to understand about like comics publishing as well, is just like having the trains run on time is just such an operation and trying to get them out, like even out of the station and rolling, that I don't think there's really any time to go back and do that. So I think like even as that, what I will say is, and this is what I found out was like very analogous in comics, was if you're a fan of like superhero continuity, right? And if you enjoy it when the books add up together and like, what happens in one comic has bearing on what happens in another and they keep it consistent. What I've really come to find is like, that's because that only happens because the writer or the creator or the artist involved or the editors involved were more team players. In terms of like, okay, maybe this is not my idea, or this is not my design, or this is not my choice, but I'm going to run with it. Okay. And there are also other ones though, when they get on it and they're like, I don't care what anybody else has done. This is what I'm doing. So what I love to watch, like there's a cold open from The Office that I love where,
hey, fuck that show. Go ahead.
Making my job real hard here, Jay.
Not a fan.
There are reasons. Go ahead, Tom.
Well, I hopefully I'll just keep this specific. Let's keep it neutral. But like he joins a improv troupe, and the joke is supposed to be is that he's the worst improv class student. He just does everything wrong, right? And the thing that he really does majorly wrong is that every time there's a scenario where they lay it out and they say, okay, well, we're in the desert, right? Or we're in the forest or whatever. He always draws out his gun and he just hijacks the sketch. And he makes it about what he wants to talk about or about his storyline. And, you'll talk, I think that was taken from a lot of people dealing with just bad improv. And I talk to people who take improv classes and they just say that there's always they'll always kind of come up with some explanation of like, oh, there's a portal or there's a way that we can get out of the setting versus, no, we've stuck a pin into this. We're sticking with this location. And if we said that this is in the desert, you have to make the most use of the desert, even if you want to be in the Arctic instead. And that's what I've kind of found of like a lot of shows that I've been on is that, attitudes vary, and I kind of tend to go in that if I'm working on something that I try to do as much research as I can, and I try to make things consistent, and I try to watch a lot of episodes as research, and I do try to say, well, maybe that wouldn't have been my choice, but I'm going to go with that choice and try to make the most out of it. That's not the policy of every writer. So that's the thing that I've found, and the thing is also like I've kind of ruined a lot of the experience for myself because now I can never take off like the editor's goggles or the showrunner's goggles where it's like if I'm watching something or reading something, I can recognize, oh, okay, that's what was going on behind the scenes. So what I can recognize sometimes is like, if you watch or read like an episode or an issue of something, you're like, okay, this is a bit incongruous with what I've read before or seen before. I'm like, all right, let me look at the credits. Oh, okay, this person didn't care about making things consistent,
Right. Okay. Yeah. I that was just something that I was wondering about. It just that question came up when you said you started working on episodes before all of the rules were made. So that there's just something that just kind of grabbed my brain there.
Well, this is, again, I think kind of going back to adversarial, inspiration. I'm not really like a fan of Chris Angel, but there was one time that like, like 20 years ago, but I saw him getting interviewed by Larry King that I actually thought was pretty insightful. And Larry King asked him on the interview show, what would you do if one of your illusions ever went wrong or malfunctioned? And he said, actually, that happens all the time. It's just that like the audience doesn't know how the illusion is supposed to play out. So part of the fun for him is to improvise and to try to make whatever malfunctions sort of like part of the act. And I realized I think that's like the case with a lot of, there is an illusion. it's all fantasy at the end of the day of like, is somebody going to play along? Are we going to keep things consistent or not? Or, the audience assumes that they have a master plan, even if they don't necessarily have one. And sometimes it's a question of there are some creators, I think, who have a skill that make it look like, well, I didn't actually come into this with a plan. I did not have a Bible, but what I can do is like kind of stitch things together after the fact to make it look like I did.
Eddie Van Halen always had a really good saying about that as well. Funny enough, Chris Angel, Eddie Van Halen.
I know, hey.
We're all over the place. But Eddie Van Halen used to have this wonderful saying. He said, there was an interviewer that asked him, so what happens if you're on stage and you mess up? Do you get some sort of stage fright? Do you start the song over? And Eddie Van Halen says, no, I do it twice and smile.
Yeah. Look, I don't want to open up this can of worms per se, but I did sort of love that, when the dust kind of settled on the new Star Wars trilogy, that the directors involved literally admitted, okay, in the first movie, J.J. Abrams set up these mysteries and story arcs and subplots, not knowing where they were going to go, with the expectation that Rian Johnson was then going to run with them. Ryan Johnson gets his movie and says, I don't want to do any of that. And then he just ditches it. And then when they get to they were originally going to have, another director, and Abrams comes back to try to stitch it up as if like even though there was that digression that there had been plans all the time. So it's like, even at this point, like I still love, and again, I don't want to wade in too much into it, but I'll just say from from having worked on TV, is that the thing that I kind of chuckle about is I really like the Bad Batch TV show that Lucasfilm did. But what I thought was so funny about that was that whole show was emphasizing that midichlorians are vitally important to, whether somebody can use the Force or not. Like the whole thrust of it is that like the clone is supposed to be, they're trying to figure out they can clone this girl to have the Force, and then that's research for the Emperor to eventually do it. And then I think like Ahsoka either came out like the season before that or after, like right after, and the whole thesis with that was, no, actually your midichlorian count doesn't matter so long as you just believe in yourself enough. And I just laughed. I'm like, okay, so that just goes to show that you have like two departments and two different shows that maybe aren't communicating as much as people want to believe they are. I mean, that was also like, even with I love that like X-Men Apocalypse came out and it had one actor playing Caliban, and then Logan came out like with a short amount of time, and it had a completely different actor playing Caliban and a completely different conception. And then like James Mangold just admitted like, yeah, we didn't actually talk that much when we were making these separate movies.
That's why why Logan is so much better, and I really like. I don't want to talk about that Apocalypse film because that's like,
I'm trying to make,
I don't want to like open. That's a rough one, man. Like,
I don't want to open up like cans of worms, but I'm just saying that like I have seen this in action sometimes where like it really just comes down to, like I remember like when Guillermo del Toro talked about when he took on Blade 2. The first thing he did was not just rewatch the first Blade. He went and got all the unused dailies and footage that Stephen Norrington had did from the first one, because he wanted to make sure that he matched the look as best as possible. And I'm just saying, like, that's not something that probably even the producers or New Line was even asking him to do. Like he took it upon himself to say, if I want to do the best sequel to this, I feel like it needs to feel like it's coherent to the first Blade.
I feel like, and maybe this is just me, but especially if you're dealing with a really large property, like if it's like, hey, we're bringing you to, do the next Marvel film that's really gonna move the storyline forward, or hey, we're bringing you to, do the next Star Wars, or like just something that's a property like that. Hey, you're doing something that's Lord of the Rings, but it's gonna be these same characters from the movie, but it's gonna be a different time frame. You like, it should be in your contract that you have to go watch that, as not to, and I mean purely out of respect for the art that was already done, and making sure that what you put forth isn't just, I mean, because look, like what you're doing with Clash of the Classics, you're not trying to continue any of those stories. You're just taking those characters and telling a story. Awesome.
You're ripping your toys apart and making new toys with them.
I mean, look, I guess that brings us like full circle, I guess, with the conversation, because that was my philosophy. Was I made a point to read the books, like it was extra research time for each one for sure, but I was really committed to, I want to make these feel like authentic. I'm not basing it off of like the movie version, the popular conception of them. But then now that I've done that, then I feel like it even once I've done that research, I'm not as reverent about it. I'm not really like trying to preserve them. I mean, I'll tell you frankly, I might as well say it, but like I've actually lost a job on a show one time because I let slip that I was too much of a fan.
Really?
Yeah.
You like it? I guess. I don't know. Maybe if the studio is like, you're too close to it, like you can't, like burn your darlings, like you can't.
I mean, look, I don't have. I would have been perfectly, professional about it. If they wanted me to burn the darlings, I would have gone on and do it. But I just think like sometimes there is this sort of view that maybe it's not going to make for a fresh take, or maybe the job of being the expert is the showrunner, not the staff, and they want to bring in outside perspectives. Again, I mean, the thing I would just and I can understand like both perspectives on that. I mean, I think the joke I always have is that like, if you're envious of somebody, or let's take a step back, like, if you get successful, the first thing you want to do is hire your friends, right? Because it's like the people and the people you trust and you're used to, and they're useful. But if you're outside of that circle of friends and you're envious and you wanted to be in there, the term you use is cronies. So, that's the thing that I've kind of realized, like when it comes to, whenever I've like, when I interview for different jobs.
Tom. Would you not pick on Larry, the new editor, like that?
Hey.
Sorry. He made that way too easy there. I couldn't help myself. And in all sincerity, there's this other part of me that like, Tom, I gotta get to sleep. And you know what? I wanna kick way back though to you said you had one guy, his notes were on point, but he didn't like to shake hands. That's just the autism, man. I get it, right? Like here it is.
Oh, no,
it's all in line. It's what it was just
it was what made it kind of sadder was it was a persona. Like it literally, like I actually knew that he had like crafted a persona that he wanted to have this sort of like aloof, I don't know, whatever it was, like kind of mysterious air to him, like when he was conducting himself in public or what have you. And then when he was in the room, like that was the real him when he was like in the room, or I don't know. I mean, you can kind of get into the depth of the psychology about it, but it was literally like you could see the switch flip is what I'm saying.
Maybe he's just a real cool guy.
Maybe.
Shut up, Larry.
He saw too many Camel cigarettes.
No, shut up, Larry. I don't want to hear it, right? Because I was really hoping like he was just because like I know for a fact I do this to everyone that helps run this madness over here with the questionnaire. They will all attest to it, from Larry, Scott, Shiro, all of them. Like I will be like, hey, blah 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 blah, straight to business. I won't ask you nothing else. It is straight to let's get to the point, and then I'll click to send the message, and then part of my brain's like, oh, I should have been like, what's up, man? How you doing? Before I said all that, but I didn't.
Jay is not wrong. The factor is not wrong.
You don't ask them to guess what Wizards casting call picks were from 30 years ago.
Didn't even.
You know what?
There's so many factors you didn't consider.
No.
I just always love the icebreaker question. It's like, hey, like, nice to meet you. Like, who would you guess that Wizard wanted to cast as Phoenix
in 1998?
I don't consider that an icebreaker personally. If somebody walked up to me and asked that, I'd be like, okay, I mean, I know I'm a comic nerd, and I mean, do you watch the show? I mean, so that's fine, but are you also psychotic?
I used to do college radio, and there was a friend of mine. We got to be friends later, but he didn't quite get the memo that not everybody is as enthusiastic about your favorite bands as you are. So like, you would you'd meet him, and then he would say like, hey, do you think Dillinger Escape Plan's ever going to play outside at a festival? I'm like, well, I don't see why they wouldn't.
Well, I hope y'all out there watching have been enthusiastic about this quest, right? Like I said, if anything that Tom has said and has got coming up has piqued your interest, right? What? Are you laughing at my segue? Was it just so smooth?
I love
it. What the? Like, you can't laugh at it, man. I'm trying to wrap the damn show up. Like,
okay.
Motherfucker. Yeah, that's right. I just made your job harder, Larry. I don't even care, right?
Hey, we're riffing here. We're riffing here. This is what it was. This is what it was like in the Wizard bullpen, right?
Yeah. Stop riffing though, man, because he's got to edit it, and I got things to do. I got a boy to get to the school in the morning. Damn it, Tom. Right now, Click the links in the description. There's stuff there. You can find Tom's stuff and other stuff and more madness, right? But beyond that, right, if you've enjoyed this quest with Tom, what I want you to do, right, is I want you to send him all the Gattaca, right? Right?
Yes.
With the white Tiger Sword, Tiger Zord, Megazord. That was a mouthful. Jesus. Right? Right? And a bunch of corned beef. Right? To just all chill. Actually, send him to the cast to Gattaca to sit and chill with him. Yeah. Watch Gattaca while they all eat corned beef with just a crap load of Power Ranger toys. Right?
Yeah.
Just a crap load of Power Ranger toys. I ain't getting that specific right now. If for some reason you've just been highly annoyed by Tom, firstly, you could have turned this off like an hour and a half ago. I'm just like saying from me to you, and this is from the guy that is the showrunner. Don't hate watch, man. It's not good for your heart. It's not good for your soul in the long run. It's not good for humanity. Don't you know? Right? But if you got all the way here and you did, right? Oh, I can't even do that one to you, man, right? So I guess you're just gonna set up some speakers around him. Start playing Led Zeppelin as loud as you can. While on top of those speakers is the Florida skunk ape. What in the hell is the Florida skunk ape, Tom?
That's Florida's Bigfoot.
All right. It's
That's
just
a Sasquatch.
It's just
a stink.
Yeah,
He stinks.
We'll have you on again and we'll talk about that.
Wait, look. So Led Zeppelin playing out speakers. Well, a Florida skunk ape and the entire cast of Entourage are just on those speakers, rocking out, feeding them sea urchins. Because, why not? Beyond that, I just want you all to, what? No, Tom, no comments. We're done. I just want you all to do three things. Right? One, always. Give it that thumbs up. I dropped my thumb. There's too much shenanigans, right? Right? Two, always. Get your comic on. There's some good ones right in the description. There's a couple good ones. Beyond that, have a good night, y'all.
Thanks so much for hopping on board and listening to the questionnaire.
Keep a listen out to these crazy guys.
The questionnaire.
I missed something.
Like and subscribe.
You're drunk. Go home.
Thanks for checking out the questionnaire.
Don't have a good day. Have a great day.